recording, so anytime.
Welcome to another Voice Advisor solution. And as a reminder, these solutions in this video is going to focus in on a proven practice to facilitate practice and generalization of learned social skills that we as educators can facilitate for individuals with social skill deficits. Now today we're going to focus in on prompting. And again, this is to practice and generalize something that we hope was learned in the Voice app, so they have a knowledge and skill acquisition, but now we need to facilitate practice and generalization into the classroom. So what is prompting? Now this is a very intuitive intervention. It's something that's effective, it's something that we do regularly, but there's actually components to it, and there's actually a manner in which to do it that we can facilitate its efficiency and its effectiveness. So with that said, of course, prompting itself is basically, it's a technique. We're providing additional supports when necessary in a variety of different ways. So now, in so doing, we can do it as the educator, we can model it, we can facilitate it with students, student to student as well. There's a number of different ways of introducing elements of prompting. Just like there's a number of different components in terms of response prompting, and we want to break down several of these. And depending upon our situation, depending upon the skill, depending upon the individual, and a number of other contextual situations, depends upon which one you're going to use. But they're all intuitive, so the gesture is what it is. We model it in respect to, we gesture to what we're asking the individual to do. We facilitate that, and in hopes with that guidance, that will be what's necessary for them to then practice or generalize that skill, in this instance, that social skill that we've been targeting. In addition, the verbal prompting. Again, intuitive, it is what it is, but again, there's a structure to it. And we're going to get into this most to least and least to most in just a moment, but the verbal prompting will have a level of explicitness to it, it will have a level of clarity to it. We'll be very specific in the language we select, but there's a verbal prompting to help facilitate that practice and generalization of that learned social skill. Now, of course, visuals are very strong, and visuals could be something that's desk-orientated. A visual could be something that we carry and we show. A visual could be something on the wall of the classroom. But visuals themselves offer a support, a sequence, a level of explicitness, but also, of course, it's visual, to prompt the individual about where they are and what they need to do next. Now, of course, there's some modeling prompting as well, and that we can model a prompt through modeling. And again, that's based on the level necessary, where the individual is, what they're trying to do next. Would be just in time, it would be contextual as well, but there's a level of modeling. Now, physical prompting has two components. There's a partial physical, and in the classroom environment for social skills, that might be something that we are engaged in, and it is what it is. There's a level of connection there. During the pandemic, of course, we probably didn't do as much of that with our social distancing. Post-pandemic, we're coming back to a level of support. But one of the things we want to caution is the full physical prompt, which is something that can be very effective in certain environments, would be something we do not expect to be used in the general education environment, or even in the special education classroom in most of our buildings. This is something that needs more training, needs more a level of expertise, and something we do not suggest for our purposes. But it is something out there, and we wanted to make at least reference to it on the prompt continuum. Now, how do we go about implementing it? Well, implementing it, basically, it's what do we do as a teacher to facilitate this with the actual student? And there's two different components we're going to look at. We're going to look at the least to most and most to least. And there's a series of steps here, and the implementation guide facilitates those steps. And it's very intuitive here. Now, as we get into the least to most and most to least, we do want to appreciate that there's other ways to facilitate prompting. Time delay, there's stimulus, there's a number of other components. This is not the purpose of our implementation guide and our supports, but we are cognizant of that. And of course, we're going to provide you some resources that will get into that in better detail. But let's focus on least to most. So least to most has a couple different components. First of all, it's that, as you would expect, where we're going to allow the individual very limited supports, but we'll provide the prompts as necessary depending upon the situation, depending upon the skill, depending upon the environment, and a host of other things. Now take a look at this when you have a moment. There's a number of steps here to facilitate, as an example, where we're offering limited support that can gradually increase depending upon the need of the individual. Now we're going to switch over to most to least, and most to least is going to facilitate that demonstration. It's going to address levels of regression, things of that nature, and in this instance, as you can see from the example, we're going to start off with a little bit more attentiveness with the prompting and then limit that as time goes on and the skill is being not only shown that they've learned it, but also they're able to practice, apply it, and begin to generalize it within the environments. And we may need to do this environment to environment from a most to least. Now, what are our directions, so to speak? How do we decide, is it least to most or most to least? Well, there's a couple guiding components, and there's many more to take a look at. But one, this least to most is a level of demonstration, or maybe there's been some regression that we're trying to correct. But least to most here would be this idea that the skill is somewhat understood. We believe, based on our data that we're seeing, for example, in the Voice app, that they have a level of competency. So now let's be there and be available for the prompting, but we'll start off with limited prompting to begin with. Now, most to least might be with the fact that the skill, well, maybe it's not as intuitive to the individual. Maybe they haven't learned it to the level that we hope would be expected, and now we're trying to practice and generalize it in the real world environment. And we might want to start off a little bit more aggressively, a little bit more attentively from a most to least. And those are some very general guiding principles. Now, of course, like with anything in our solutions, we offer some video examples. And these video examples are trying to simulate what would be relevant in your classroom. They're not perfect, but please take a look at to try to better visualize and exemplarize what the prompting process looks like in the classroom environment. And as I've already referenced, there's a number of different resources out there where you can go into better detail, better examples, to better understand not only the prompting we've mentioned, but other components that we haven't emphasized in this video presentation. And as always, this Voice Advisor video goes along with an implementation guide that you can print out step by step, taking you through the various elements of these prompting to, again, facilitate the practice and generalization of the learned social skill, hopefully from the Voice app, for the individual to be independent as a learner and to be able to demonstrate their knowledge and understanding and application of that learned social skill. Hopefully this was helpful for the area of prompting.